Hello, and welcome to the Physical Therapy Owners Club. I'm your host, Nathan Shields. Welcome back. And today I've got business partner, friend, and many time guest on the podcast, Will Humphreys, with me today. Will, thanks for joining me again.
As always, it's a pleasure to be here, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
It was great to see you at PPS last week and catch up, but also, get some energy from that. Was that your first PPS you went to?
Yeah, that was my first one. I can't believe it. I have attended so many different conferences outside of physical therapy. It was a little bit like, why haven't I done this? It was really cool.
Right.
And I loved seeing you as well. It was so fun.
What was interesting to me, and tell me what you thought, but there's like 20,000 PT owners in the country, supposedly, somewhere along there. And less than 1,000 are at this conference. A conference that's specifically set up for PT owners to address their issues and network with similar owners. Why do you think it is that only 5% of PT owners show up at a conference like that?
Well, unfortunately, I think I know all too well why. Because this was my first one. But yeah, dude, it's like, people do not, again, they don't know what they don't know. And PT owners, we are the worst trained business professionals in any industry, in my opinion, after spending time outside of our industry or even in healthcare, right? So PTs are so busy, working 60, 70-hour weeks, treating their patients as business owners. They don't even know they should go to this thing that would absolutely resolve like most of their headaches. And like building the network part of development is not only the most valuable, but it's also the most fun. So it's kind of like this work retreat where you get to go and connect and hang out with people. But I think also, like, if any of your listeners are wanting to start a business, they should go to PPS. Like, think about if you and I had gone to PPS before we'd opened our first practice and just like met PT owners and built our network and learned about different companies instead of trying to like reinvent the wheel. I don't know, man. It's crazy how few people go to this thing given what it provides.
And it's crazy that I never went, you never went until after we sold our businesses, right? But I think I had the same fear that most clinic owners do now. And that is, well, you're asking me to leave for Wednesday through Friday, business days, right? You couldn't make it a Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to leave my business. I'm going to lose revenue because I'm not treating, right? And for what? To get some presentations about business? Well, whatever. And now I look back at it like, that's how we grew our business. We got some coaching and consulting, yes, but don't you agree that one of the biggest things about getting some consulting and coaching and being part of mastermind groups was simply the networking and getting to know people and gleaning off of their experiences and talking to them in the hallways and in the exhibit halls?
Yeah. Like, I don't, so what's funny about this, what you're saying is, I totally agree. That's like financially the most valuable thing we could ever do is build our network, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, but see, the thing that we don't know is that like outside of healthcare, outside of PT specifically, this is all people, it's just a known fact. It's like gravity. If you go to these things, you build your network and you learn about what's current with terms of services, you make your job easier and you make more money.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, it's the exact opposite. Like, how can I give up 3 days of revenue? Really shows me how most PT owners are typically hanging by the skin of their teeth. They just don't understand. And that's hopefully what this podcast will do. It's like maybe the title of this podcast should be, was PPS worth it?
Yeah, exactly. It goes back to our mentor, Scott Fritz, your net worth equals your network equals your net worth. And when that first landed on me, I was like, really? But you think about it, and it goes back to the phrase, you are the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with, that kind of stuff. When you grow a big network, then you see opportunities and you can leverage information and intelligence from other people in that network in ways that you never would have done yourself. And you're otherwise working on an island. I mean, that's so much why my mantra is reach out, step out, and network. You got to reach out occasionally to some coaching, get some knowledge, but you got to step out of patient care and network, because those are the 3 things that the most successful PT owners do. And what's funny is that the owners that are there are the people, they have the time to do it, but they're the most successful people in our business. Would you not say? I mean, the people, and if you want to be successful, you should do the same things they are doing. I mean, they're showing you the pattern. Most of the people that are there, like we run across our friends in our network, they've got 30 and 40 clinics routinely, and they're there, and they've always been there for years. And it's not just a bunch of one-off clinic owners going to these conferences. It's these people that have multiple clinics, and they find it valuable.
Right. Well, it's interesting too when you think about like there was 1,000 registrants, right, this year for PPS. Of those people, a lot of the owners were bringing their own teammates. So in terms of unique business owners that were actually there, it might be closer to like 800 or 700. And
right.
Then when you consider the fact, and I met at least a dozen people who had retired. This is true. I met a number of older PT owners who had sold their practices or just like straight up retired. They were like in their 70s. And I'm like, why are you here if you don't own a business? He's like the networking. He goes, my friends all come here. We've been coming here for years. We're all retired now. I love being with my friends. And so I think another thing I think, Nathan, that why people don't go to PPS is the fact that like PT business owners, they're overwhelmed with like the shoulds. You know what I should do? You get to a point, at least I did, where I was just like, yeah, there's 8 million shoulds. I should be working on recruiting. I should be working on my billing. But at the end of the day, if I put my head down in the sand and treated patients, that's the only thing I knew that made me money. Right? So like yes. From your perspective, this is me asking you, like, where would you put attending events like PPS in terms of a priority? Like
now?
Yeah, like no, with what you know now, if you're going back to you know, 20 years ago, how big of a priority would you tell your younger self, like, to go to PPS and build your network?
So I'm a little bit more on the conservative side probably, but I would say, okay, if you're just starting your clinic, then okay, you have, I guess if you had 10 visits a week and you're just starting your clinic, you have no excuse to not go, right? And learn something from it. If you're the only practitioner, yeah, take the time, learn what other people are learning. And it's going to be a whirlwind, but to gain that experience and see what other people are doing, you're going to get insights that you never had before. Yeah, I would tell myself to go. By all means, start improving your network, start getting business cards, learn about people, learn about EMRs, learn about apps that are new to the industry. Yeah, I would definitely say do more of that, because a lot of it is the alone on an island mentality.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we got the benefit from our network, is we started recognizing we're not alone. We just need to start reaching out and talking to other people, and they've been through what we're going through, and we can leverage that.
Yeah, the way I see it now, because you and I have been coaching clients now for a couple of years, and there's only two paths from a very general perspective. Like, but there are two main paths, and I've worked with so many people who are in their 60s and 70s who have never broken out. Like they don't attend the PPS, they don't build their network, they don't learn what they don't know. All right. And so what they do is they build a business that completely revolves around them. They've done it for 40 or 50 years. They don't even feel like they can retire. Like, it's really sad. And then these are the people selling their practices for pennies on the dollar without even knowing it to larger conglomerates, just because they're looking for some sort of exit. And then the other option are like our friends who have 30, 40, 50 locations. Not that that's like always the goal, but like, they had the freedom to create that because they were willing to invest in coaching. They were willing to go and build their network, and they go hand in hand. Coaching and networking are two sides of the same coin. They absolutely create the experience of development. And so for people to go back, I mean, for me, I'd go back to my younger self and be like, dude, go every year, make it your top priority, because no matter how busy you think you are, no matter how much you think this place will implode if you don't show up, the bigger danger is that it never blows up, that I stay this successful the rest of my life until I'm 70 years old. And then I'm like literally hundreds of PT owners across the country who just don't even know how to retire because they've never figured out how to make the business bigger than them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the beauty of that networking, thinking about that is, and you probably experienced this because we went to the same conferences, but we weren't considering getting 15 to 20 clinics across Phoenix, right? We just wanted to make more money where we were in our few clinics that we had, right? But once you meet the guy who has 30 clinics and he's like, yeah, I was just like you 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I had 3 clinics. And he's like, I never imagined I'd have 30, but now that I have 30, it's fun. And we're just looking for more opportunities to grow. And there's people within my company that want to grow with me. So why not provide them that opportunity to open up a clinic and partner with them? And now all of a sudden I have 50 clinics. And so networking with those types of people just expands your vision. Like, wait, you weren't perfect the entire time. You haven't been a 30 clinic business owner your entire life.
Right.
You were just handed the keys. You actually started where I was. Because if you would ask me back when I was first opening the clinic, it was, I want to have 2 therapists treating up to 150 visits a week. That was my vision. Right. And
yeah, totally.
But once I got there, I was like, my life sucks. Like, I'm not seeing my kid. I'm not seeing my newborn for 3 days on end awake because I'm going to work before they wake up and I'm coming home after they go to sleep 2 or 3 days in a row. And I can't go on vacation without getting calls from the clinic every day. This isn't what I signed up for, even though I achieved my goals. Whereas when I'm networking, I'm like, wait, there's a way to own your business and not have it completely dependent upon you all the time, right? You can leave and come to a conference like this and you're not worried about your revenues. And so, yeah, just seeing people like that and knowing that's there can expand the vision.
Yeah, when you were talking, what really was present for me is how I used to think that when other people were more successful than me, that they were just better business owners. I think there's something about when we don't see what we don't know, or we're not even clear on like what we don't know. Like,
right.
We assume it's us. Like our value is, well, and that might be another reason why I used to put my head in the sand and treat like a lot of business owners, is because they know they're valuable there. They know their patients show up. They know that they can make an impact. They get cookies. Like there's this cycle of feedback around you're valuable. And so when they think about the idea of like breaking free and going to a conference or hiring a coach, it turns into this thing like, but what if I'm bad? Like, what if I take time away from my practice? They might not even be conscious of it, but I think this was me on some level was, yeah, what if I do these things and I still suck? And like, my business doesn't grow. And because I took time and money away from my business to do this, what if I hurt my business? The one thing that is telling me that I'm valuable, right? Like, yeah, it's an interesting mindset, because when you were talking about it, it's like, why wouldn't someone do it? And I'm like, well, why didn't I? And that's kind of what came to mind.
Well, go ahead. You're going on.
No, I was going to actually change the topic a little bit.
I didn't want to interrupt, but instead of like, I wish it's not that I've overcome this, but I wish I could go back to my former self and say, let's change the question. Like, can you go to PPS or not, essentially? And if I'm a younger person with that mentality, I'm like, no, I'm going to lose business because I equate my worth to the patients that I see, and I collect so many dollars per hour with each visit. And so that's my worth. And if I don't go, then I'm losing money. Whereas changing the question just simply starts expanding the possibilities. Like, what would you have to do to make it to PPS and not lose any revenue?
Yeah.
I mean, what would you have to do in your business to do that? And that's almost like the challenge I want to put out there to a lot of people who didn't go and have those same concerns is, okay, next year's PPS is Aurora, Colorado, November, 2nd through 5th or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at the Gaylord, which was an amazing facility in Dallas. And so this is at the Gaylord in Colorado. Like, what would it take for you to get to PPS next year, just as a symbol? I mean, there's some value in being at PPS and networking that we're talking about, but just as a symbol that you created a business that allows you to leave for 4 or 5 days and not lose any revenue. What would you have? You got a year to do it. Why couldn't you? Could you create something like that? And what would you have to do to do it? Because once you open those possibilities, like, if it's just up to me is it a yes or no question? Are you going to go or not? And should you? It's, might land on no, but rather opening up the question to what would it take? If I'm telling you it's valuable and you should be networking, well, then what would it take? A little bit of faith, of course, but what would it take in your business to leave for 3 or 4 days? And then that's when brainstorming kicks in. That's when you start thinking about, oh, well, maybe I could plan ahead 2 or 3 months in advance and find an on-call person to help me out. Or, I move my schedule up and tell patients to come in Monday through Wednesday, and I'm going to take Thursday and Friday off and be okay with it, just like any other holiday, and get my team prepared for that. Just changing the question will help, and would have helped me when I was younger.
Yeah, I like that. I think, when I hear you talk about it, you're like working with people and like saying, hey, change the question, think about it. And I think that's going to help a lot of people. For those of you who are a little bit, people who are listening, who are a little bit like thicker skulled, get off your butt and go next year. Like, I'm not saying that as a judgment.
Seriously, no, I love it.
I'm just saying like sometimes I need to hear it clearly. Like, for those of you who have to hear it clearly, like it's stupid not to go because of all the reasons we mentioned. And here's the other thing is I see people go, the only wrong decision is not going. I don't care where people are in business because, and we're not getting paid by anybody to do this. I'm kind of emotional on it because I get emotional over everything. But the other thing is I get real clear on like what would have served me. And man, this would have been huge. It would have cut some corners for me. It would have made it more enjoyable to own a practice. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's just one of those things where there's no question that there's a huge value there. And people go differently. Like the way they go is differently. So some people, they want to attend all the classes. Some people, they're real excited for the vendors and learning about solutions. All those things are great. But the biggest thing is going and just meeting people. And if you're not a really outgoing person, it doesn't matter. They build in all these events where you just organically meet people. People are approaching you to talk. You're in the elevator. And that was one of the places I met the most people because I was on the 9th floor, which at the Gaylord Convention Center was off the hook. Like, I just wish I'd brought my wife. It was that cool.
Me too.
They had an indoor lazy river river walk, and they had like all these cool things for Christmas. And like, in the elevator going to the 9th floor, it was literally like they had a PPS thing around their neck. It's like, oh, where are you from? And I actually made some business that way. Like, it was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. Oh, I need some of that. Great. Or, oh, you own a billing company. Tell me about what your headaches are. Like the elevator, you just start networking. But the networking, no matter what we go for, the networking is always the most important piece because then you have a community of people who are committed to not being that 78-year-old who's Uber, because I can say this because none of those people are listening to your podcast. They're too busy.
That's right.
They're too busy and too old to like be in a place where they have the energy to like start this journey.
Right.
So it doesn't matter our age. I want to be clear on that, but I'm just saying that like any age, any stage of business will be benefited by going to PPS and just starting to break free. I love your phrase, by the way. What was it again? Reach out, step out, and network. Love that.
Yeah. And it like I said, it could, if it's just a symbol, it's a year away. It could be a symbol of your business's growth to say, as of November next year, I'm going to have a business that runs without me. I don't have fears about lost revenue if I leave for 3 days. And if you want to take it to the next level, my team will handle everything without calling me. I will be completely off the grid.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like, my head would have exploded with that possibility 10 years ago, 15 years ago when we got started, to think that, is that possible? Can that happen? I mean, is part of it also, not to get back into the discussion because we're kind of putting a bow on it, but part of it could be like, well, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not there, then of course it can't run. And where your team is probably like, it'd be nice if you weren't around once in a while and just set some expectations for us.
You know what? I love how you say that because I was talking a little bit about that mindset of like not even being present to the idea that all of my selfish feedback is coming from my patients and like, who am I without it? Is I think about that mindset of like, yeah, what happens if I leave? I wish I would, if I could go back in time, I'd tell myself, stop using your patients to fill your insecurities. You know, because like that's what we're doing. We're like, well, if I leave, who's going to treat so and so? Because no one treats them as good as I do.
I'm the best ever.
We all like, we don't really say that, but we all kind of believe it because we hire PTs and most of them aren't as effective as we are because they're not owners. They're not incentivized to care as much as we are. My mentor, I've had lots of coaches, but one mentor, a guy named David Berg that you know. In my first conversation, he is a healthcare professional who ended up going full-blown business owner in healthcare. He owns hospitals, plural. Like he oversees surgical centers and family practices. Like this guy has been wildly successful, and I'm very grateful to have had him in my life. In the first conversation, he pissed me off. He tells me, he's like, oh, tell me about your business. And I just kind of told him about my practice. I had, you know, the one location or whatever. And he's like, oh, so you still treat full-time and you're a business owner? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, you'll get over that. You'll get over that thing that you think, you know, treating patients is like the best use of your time. You'll get over that. And I just remember being so angry. I'm like, you don't get it, man. Like I am this amazing. Well, if I don't show up, then things go to pot.
They're coming to see me.
Yeah, dude, you don't know my situation. And like, I'm in a rural community. Like it's hard to recruit and all these, man, ineffective ideas that ran my world. Right. But it changed it because I realize now, and I hope people hear this as judgment, that like I was being selfish, like not building my network, which by the way made it more fun and made it more about a team of people and helped me find better therapists. That was the thing that I did that was better for my patients. The thing that I did that was better for my patients was making me a better business owner.
Right.
PPS is the only event that I know of because CSM isn't like that. None of the other physical therapy conferences are specifically for business owners the way that this is.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's specific to PT owners, and don't get me wrong. I think I still have my issues with some of it. Like, I really don't think that the APTA through PPS, and this is my limited outside perspective, is that I don't think they were addressing the other 19,000 owners as well as they could be, especially the one-off clinic owners that are newer that could get some benefit from it. I don't think they're advertising, promoting it more, and maybe creating courses that would be specific to a newer owner. But besides that, I think just simply the networking involved in what can be learned as it's currently constituted is a huge benefit and is worthy of every owner going.
It makes me wonder, like now you've got me like thinking critically of PPS.
Oh, no.
because literally, I don't know. Like I look back as to why are we such poor business owners? Like that question, it's crazy. Running a B2B business now, and I'm interfacing with other practice owners. None of them are any worse than I was, but majority of them are so fear-based. Mm-hmm. Like compared to other industries, and I've worked gratefully because of Entrepreneurs Organization. I've networked with business owners for 15 years outside of healthcare. I have never seen like the overall fear and ignorance that like drives our industry. And it's like, part of me goes like, well, who's responsible for causing it? Who's responsible for helping fix it? Well, we have to look at both ends. I mean, if we're going to say what's causing it, as much as I love my education systems, I looked at those first. Mm-hmm. Because as a student, I was just bombarded by teachers who never owned private practices telling me that my license is my livelihood. And if I don't dot every I and cross every T, I'm going to get crucified one day. Mm-hmm. By Medicare, go to jail and get raped or whatever. Sorry. But the point, but that was literally that's an exaggeration, but it was in the actual vein of what I thought was going to possibly happen to me. I guess if I'm being really honest, I'm being super authentic right now. I remember working for you back when I first became a PT in Medicare billing and not knowing what I didn't know. Sorry about that. And not knowing what I didn't know about, and I didn't know if I was over or under billing. So I would always chronically underbill. But I remember even then being worried, what if I get audited and I go to jail? And then literally that was my fear of what I said earlier. So this face doesn't do well in prison. There's no world. And I mean, I'm making light of it, but literally that's what I would drive to Florida, thinking about some mornings, feeling sick to my stomach. So if I'm thinking it, other people are too. And that was a seed planted in me by my teachers. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what I didn't know. What if the teachers were like, listen, your license is your possibility. It's your opportunity. Protect it. Don't overbill. But my gosh, guys, like what you can do with your license, imagine what's possible, would maybe shape me differently as a business owner. And then you look at like the private practice section. We have to give them kudos for what they've created, because it is massively successful.
Much better than what it used to be.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I say we still challenge it as members of that group, and of course that means that we should start running for office or whatever that looks like if we're really serious. Yeah. But the point is like if we're evaluating it, it's failing. If PPS's vision is to get private practice to thrive in the United States, it's failing. It's that number of companies is going from 20,000 to 25. And I'm not criticizing the current leadership, because I think it's the current leadership that produces the value that is there. And the problem might be too big for one organization, but if we're just being objective, like a private practice section, as in terms of its mission to promote successful private practitioners, is failing at large, because our industry is run by and large by single clinic practice owners who don't have a home life balance, who are developing heart conditions.
Yeah.
And they have to go recruit these PTs who are coming in being taught by these like social thought leaders that I'm aware of that drive me crazy, saying you're getting taken advantage of by your PT practice owner because you're not making six figures. So the PT practice owner, the men and women, are the only brave people in our industry, and they're handicapped by ignorance and the fear that gets installed in them by the educational system. And I'm done talking.
No, I was just thinking, wow, you got a good soapbox going, man. Nice job.
I know. I'm sorry. I just get, but you know how it is. You get into this space with these people, and it just, if we care about it, like, I don't know.
That's the thing. And not to make light of the fact, like my friend Mark Moore mentioned this the other day, the PT owners that learn about their business and do it well are really good business owners, because our margins are small, because we have to manage every dime, because we have to be so intricate with our documentation and billing. Otherwise we do get maybe metaphorically raped by the insurance companies. But don't say it, Will. But so but it makes us better business owners, because he says, I talk to friends now who are outside of healthcare altogether, and they don't know half the stuff that I know, because I've made myself into a business owner that does watch the details and knows more and has to know more in order to be profitable. So there are so many great business owners within the industry. It's just unfortunate that that's not seeping in and getting out to the other single practice owners who are stressing and straining day to day, just looking for that moment to either, number one, get bought out because I'm sick of it and I've got the headaches, or number two, maybe they die off and that relieves their concerns altogether. But number three, like, okay, I guess when I'm done, I just hang up my coat and lock the door and walk away, and nothing to show for it, right? Oh. And you don't want that to happen. There's opportunities out there, and as an industry and as an organization, we just need to push that forward.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny that you mentioned that. I was told by my mentor, who's owned multiple healthcare businesses, but he's also started some outside of healthcare. He told me the same thing. If you can run a successful physical therapy practice, that makes you a leader of leaders of business owners. It's kind of the opposite. As PT practice owners, most of us are insecure about being a business owner, so we get lost in that patient care. But if you can learn to overcome it, because what I would say is that, like, yeah, it's hard, but I think anyone can do it. I also make sure that, like, that's something I really believe. I believe any physical therapist can do it and should. I think every PT that it even calls them a little bit should go open their own practice.
Yeah.
But I just wish that they would do it with the right support. And yeah, we're getting there. I think the bigger thing is we're getting there. We've got organizations like the PPS is totally evolving. It's getting better and better because of the current leadership and other people to make it more effective. There's all these private practitioners. There's more coaches. When you and I started, I would doubt there was a single coach outside of one or two larger groups. But now, like you specialize in very specific areas that help. I specialize in different areas. Like, there's a whole slew of services and people that can help people learn what they don't know and become wildly successful.
Yeah.
It all starts by going to PPS and, like, just learning what is it that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't need to figure it all out. I just need to know what it is in general, what I don't know. Oh, there's a solution for marketing. There's a solution for billing. There's a solution for coaching. It's all out there now. You just gotta learn.
Am I following HIPAA guidelines? Well, they'll have a presentation about that. How do I withstand a Medicare audit so I can minimize that fear in the future? That's there too. You know, all those things you wouldn't think about. That's why I want to go to PPS. But when you see the titles, you're like, oh yeah, I could learn more about that. Oh yeah, I could learn more about that. Okay, yeah, I could probably take something from that. And so that's the beauty of it, is that you make yourself available to those opportunities.
Question for you, kind of wrapping things up a little bit.
Yes. No, that's fine.
0 to 10, 10 being like crazy recommend, 0 being like don't go at all costs. What would you rate the PPS experience at for you?
For people who are listening?
Yeah, for you, for personally, and for people who are listening, like maybe 2 score.
Like for me, I love the networking. And so for me, it is an option. I don't have to go because I'm not a business owner right now of a PT clinic. So it's an 8.
Yeah.
But it's closer to 9 or 10 if it's someone who's listening and has a clinic. How about you?
9.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't give it a 10 is just because I believe there's a lot of opportunity to upgrade it.
Right.
But like, yeah, I mean, if someone's in a business and they're working 70 hours a week, it's a 20 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like for anyone, like, so if someone has, what's funny is that most of the people there, I think it's more of an 8 or 9 for them. Like if you have 40 clinics, they know almost everything there. They've got their own solutions. It's only about the networking. And that's still incredibly useful, an 8 or a 9, but like they're smart enough to make those networks a lot of different places.
Right,
so.
right. Well, we ended up on a topic that we didn't plan on.
No, this wasn't why we got on the podcast. We'll have to do that another time.
Okay, because when we talk next, just a little teaser, is we're going to talk about the Great Resignation.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Great Resignation. We're going to talk about why people are leaving and what we can do about it.
Right.
All that stuff.
Well, thanks for talking with me today, man. I appreciate it.
That was a lot of fun, Nate. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you.